Hello Black Hat, my talk will be about the open source tool I was working on called Exposor. It's basically finding the exposed technologies using internet connected device platforms. And I will decode this sentence later in my slides. But before talking about the tool, I want to give the quick introduction about myself. My name is Abdullah, but I usually go by Abu. So feel free calling me either way. And I work as a senior security researcher at Oryx Labs. My main focus is application security. And I live in the UAE, and that's why I want to do the Middle East joke, which is a dead one. I usually walk around 6,000 steps per day, but I wish I could do like a Dune actor, but in reality it's really hot, you know, you're gonna sweat, and I do sweat, yeah. And you can find me in any social networks with a nickname of ABUYV. And today's agenda is about the problem overview with the internet connected devices platforms. And later I'm gonna give you the introduction to the Exposor and the features and also the demo of the tool. And I want to start talking about the problems of the search engines, but before that I'll give you the introduction to the search engines. As I promised of decoding the sentence I gave you in the first slide, the Exposor is identifying the exposure of the technologies with the help of internet connected device platforms. I guess the first part of the sentence is clear. So basically Exposor is finding the exposed technologies, but what I mean by internet connected device platforms is basically search engines. So internet connected device platforms are the search engines to find the devices or technologies. So I guess you have used any of these search engines at least once in cybersecurity field. One of the well-known search engine is Shodan. Probably you used it. Another one could be Censys, Zoomeye, and Fofa. Yeah, and if you go to those search engines and their UI would be different, but they are serving only for one purpose, being a contactless active reconnaissance. So they are trying to get the juicy information or data from internet without disrupting organizations or companies. So basically it's called that contactless active reconnaissance. What they are trying to get from the internet, I mean, like what those platforms are trying to get from internet are first of all, we are talking about internet connected systems. It means those search engines are trying to get the IP address of the devices. Basically IP address would represent the host, right? And but in order to know the functionality of the host, those platforms, search engines, are getting the ports as well. So basically ports would reveal the functionality of the host, and as they get the ports, they can fingerprint the systems in order to spot the vulnerabilities. And the ports are door openers for everyone. So basically, as they have the ports, they can do the fingerprint, and it means anyone using the search engines can open the door to your organization, right? Potentially, we are talking about. And one of the problem I saw with these platforms that their data were different for some use cases. For example, let's take an example. If we just filter by the country in each platform, and if we just focus only well-known port 443, we would see that the results are extremely different in each platform. This was the one problem I spot with these search engines, that I decided to come up with idea to leverage them together, join them together in one platform or in one tool. Because for example, if you want to search or do wider comprehensive analysis, you have to use multiple platforms, because as you see, a single platform would lack for some use cases. For example, for this case, for some specific country, even though just single one port 443 would have different results, right? I mean, like, the reason could be different as well. Like, maybe some scanners of the search engines are good in the region, or maybe some search engines are giving more historical data, that's why we see more results in 443 for some countries. Or maybe simply enough the organizations are blocking the scanners of the search engines because they can spot which IP is trying to do the reconnaissance from the organization, and they can block it easily. So there are multiple reasons. So that's why, you know, we need to if you are trying to do the comprehensive analysis, if you want to have full visibility into something serious, if you might need to use more than one platform, more than one search engines. That's why my main motivation behind the Exposor was joining those platforms, because each platform is separated. I mean, those platforms are separated from each other and their data is not joined together. So with the Exposor, I try to join the data from each platform. And another motivation when I was working with the Exposor was those search engines are sharing the queries on the Twitter accounts when there's a serious vulnerability, but they never mention the logic behind the queries. So with the Exposor, I try to cover the logics of the detections they have in their platforms. And as I said, like in the Exposor, I try to combine the multiple tools, multiple search engines. In a normal way, you had to go in each platforms, you had to type your queries, so it would give you the headache, and you had to go and do manually in each platform. So with the Exposor, I try to combine them and wrap them in one single tool. Another problem is I was trying to solve with the Exposor is complexity. You know, here I showed you 4 different search engines: Censys, Shodan, Zoomeye, and Fofa, and each of them has their own syntaxes, own languages. And it would be complex to query in each platform, right? And you have to know all the syntaxes. So with the Exposor, I try to solve these issues. So basically, with Exposor, you don't need to know any of their syntaxes. And naturally, tracking of queries aren't there. Everyone shares their queries to find technologies on the specific search engines on the Twitter, but there's no record. I wanted to have a repository to have a track of queries. That's why I built Exposor. So in a summary, Exposor is a wrapper of all search engines in a single tool. Currently, Exposor supports Shodan, Censys, Zoomeye, and Fofa. With Exposor, you just need to use single syntax. So as a user of the Exposor, you don't need to know any syntaxes of any search engines. So it's a basically single syntaxifier to query the technology on those search engines. So it's a wrapper. So what makes Exposor different from other tools? There are a number of tools out there on the green side. I don't mean they are bad. I have been using them and they're amazing. But one of the key problem I saw was these tools. They are basically let's imagine like this in the UI. Back in times, like for each platform, for each search engines, so you had to go UI like in normal way. For Shodan, you had to go UI. You had to type your query, get your data, process it, do whatever you want. And Censys, again, you had to go UI, website, type your query, get the results, process it. In Censys and in Zoomeye and Fofa, it would be same. In UI, you had to do your magics. But with the tools I saw on the GitHub or in the internet, basically they just brought the UI of those tools to the terminal, to the black window. Basically, with these tools, as I'm going to the website, you had to now go to the terminal, but you had to do the same actions. Like if you want to search something on Shodan, you had to type the Shodan query in the terminal. If you wanted to find something in Censys, you had to type the Censys query in the terminal. I mean, like it was just same method, but in the terminal. This was the problem I saw with the tools. But anyway, they are useful. I use them. I really give the kudos to the people who created those tools. But with the Exposor, what I have done, other than using the queries for each search engines, you just have to use CP and CV syntaxes. So if you ever been in the vulnerability world, you probably heard about the Common Platform Enumeration, CP, and Common Vulnerability Exposure. So basically, in the Exposor, you would mention the CP name, and it would go to the search engines and would grab the data for you. So here in Exposor, you don't need to write the queries for the search engines. So basically, it unifies the queries in single format, and it's a community driven, so it's easy to extend. It's a YAML base. I will show you later on. So that's the difference between the Exposor and other tools. So in other tools, you have to anyway write the queries for each platform as an end user. But in Exposor, as an end user, you don't need to write. You just need to type the keyword CP, and it will find the technologies in those search engines. In terms of the details, technology stack, its code base is Python, because pure Python. Because if you go to my GitHub page, it would show you 100% in Python, and the query logics of search engines are stored in the YAML files, and it can be extended, as I said, easily. Currently, I have more than 1,000 logics implemented already in Exposor. In terms of installation, there are two options. If you want to be end user only, you can do the pip install. But if you like to contribute the code base or help the Exposor to cover more products, then use git clone. And there's a contribution guideline I put on GitHub repository, so follow it and help the Exposor to grow. Features of Exposor, as I say, it's a wrapper for search engines. It unifies the search with CP and CV focus mindset. It's a YAML-based queries. And I want to show you the help section of the tool. There are some options I want to highlight here quickly. --init is just initialization of the API keys. So for search engines, you need to have the API key in order to query on their platform. So if you have the API key, you can initialize here in the Exposor by typing feed and credential for the feed, or API key for the feed. --update is basically updating the database of the intelligence files, like basically a database of the queries. Dash query or dash query is searching for the technology or searching for the vulnerability. So here you mentioned the CP or the CV, and it will gonna go for each search engines and we're gonna find the technology on those search engines. Dash QL or dash query limit, basically limiting the query. So to find the technology, there can be more than one query. For example, if you want to find Apache HTTP server in the intelligence files, there might be like maybe more than one query to be sent for Shodan or to be sent for Censys. So with dash QL, it would limit it to only single query. So you don't, like, Exposor wouldn't send more than one query to the each platforms or whatever feed you mention in the tool. So it's basically protecting your credits, because API keys, they're not free, yeah. So it will protect your query credits. So it's defender. By default, it's yes, but if you are advanced user, you can disable it, and you can send more queries if you want to have full visibility. Dash F, basically mentioning which feed you are trying to search against. I mean, like technology. What I mean, against what feed you. I mean, like, you can choose one or more data feeds to query from. Like you can say, for example, dash F Shodan, it will gonna limit or will gonna send the queries to Shodan only, or you can say Censys, Zoomeye, or you can say all, it will gonna send the query to all the feeds you have initiated in the beginning. Country, if you want to limit the search with the country, you can do it. Net block or IP address, you can limit the results to get from the specific IP address and net block. And domain name as well. If you want to search the technology in the specific domain name, you can do it. Dash limit is the result of the query. By default, it's 50, so it will give you the max 50 results in each feed, yeah. Because again, like, it's a credit, it's eating up your credits. So this one is also protecting your credits for the feeds. So dash QL and dash limit is protection of your credits in the API, like in the for the search engines API, yeah. And dash V is verbose, and dash output is output of your results. And again, Exposor is simple. You just type exposor.q for query, it's main thing. You can type the CP name, whatever technology you are looking for, dash F, and you can mention the feed name to search against, which feed you want to search against, yeah. Here is an example. You can search Apache HTTP, and dash feed, you can mention Zoomeye. It will gonna go Zoomeye and search Apache HTTP systems in Zoomeye. Or you can search for the CV in all feeds, for example, as in just single feed. You can mention all, and whatever you initiated will gonna go all the feeds, and will gonna find for you in each search agents. And logics are stored in the YAML files, and the YAML files contain two parts. One of them is the information section, where you must have the CP name. In the queries section, there will be the queries in each search engines. So in the tool as an end user, when you say dash Q, you mention the CP, yeah, and this CP will be extracted from this YAML file, will be matched to this YAML file, let's say. And once there's a CP in the YAML file, it will gonna get the queries for each search engines, and it will gonna use the real queries for each search engine to find the technology. So basically, it's a mapping based strategy that I've used in YAML files. So you type the query CP on the tool and comes and gets the real query from the YAML file and goes to the search engines to find the technology. This is how it works. So all the YAML files are stored in the Intels folder called technology Intels subfolder. And as I said, there are two parts: information section and query section. In information, we will gonna have CP. In the query section, we're gonna have the real queries for each search engine. So basically, for those who wants to contribute, so they can go to the folder of technology Intels and they can add their own YAML files, and they can review, and I can merge it. In this way, we can expand our capacity of detection of more technologies. And as we have the CP, you know, like it can be mapped to the CVs, right? So that's why whenever you add the new technology, whenever there is a new technology intelligence, it will automatically generate the vulnerability intelligence. So I got a script, so it will gonna map all the vulnerabilities to CP. So it means you can search on the Exposor with the help of CV as well. So basically, when you search for CV, it will gonna find the CP from CV. As there's a query for the CP, it will gonna use the real queries against the search engine. So now, so heavy lift is done by Exposor. So as an end user, you don't need to care about this. As an end user, you just need to type CP or CV. It will gonna do all the mess for you. But if you want to contribute, so it's simple enough. Just you need to add the YAML file to the technology intelligence folder, and you can use it in Exposor. Yeah. And so I want to show you the tool now, how it works. Let's do the demo. So it's Python tool. So we can type Python Exposor -h to see the help page. As I said, there's an init. I've already initiated the API key for Shodan right now, and I'm gonna type the Q option to query the specific technology. So for example, if you want to search the Microsoft Exchange technology, you can type the CPU of the Microsoft Exchange Exchange server. It's coming from MVD basically. So this keyword. So I've added the MVD style keywords here in the Exposor. So by typing the CP, so you can hit the enter, or it can be the specific. For example, I want to search on Shodan, and I want to see the verbose results, and it will go to the it will find the query for Shodan basically, as I showed you in the YAML files. So in the YAML files, it found 3 queries. If you remember, I said like QL. So QL is limiting only 1 query. So there are 3 queries that Shodan has for Exchange server, but it will gonna send only 1 query, as QL limit is yes. So it will gonna send only 1 to protect our credits. So right now I have this amount of credits for Shodan. So now it found results in Shodan, but I show only 10 of them in the terminal. So you can do the output and you can save in CSV file. So by default it will gonna be 50, but if you wanna have more, you can mention more. So here also you can specify the country code by typing C-USA, for example. So I want to see the Microsoft Exchange servers in USA. So it will gonna find the assets in the USA in the feed that you mentioned. So right now I have the Shodan here, but you can say all, it will gonna find all. So you see it's only in the USA, but also you can mention the net block for specific net block you can search, like, or specific IP address you can search, so that's supported as well, or specific domain name, so you can search, or also you can search by the CV. For example, I want to search the Apache ActiveMQ vulnerabilities in the USA, for example. So I can type the CV of the ActiveMQ. For example, this is the CV, one of the CV, the ActiveMQ is affected. So I can say, hey, country USA, give me the USA results, verbose. If I don't mention the feed, it will gonna go to Shodan by default. The default feed is the Shodan, so it will go to the Shodan. So as you see, for this CV, it found that, hey, this is the CP affected by this CV. And for this CP, I have this amount of queries for Shodan. And as the QL is by default yes, it will gonna send only one query, and it will gonna find all the ActiveMQ systems in the USA, because we mentioned the USA. But if we say QL no, it will what did we say wrong? QL, if we say QL no, it will be sending two queries, and I have disabled the verbose. So that's why I always recommend using the -v, so to understand what's going in back. So now it will send the two of these queries to Shodan, as I said QL no. And so if you want to have more results, or if you want to have comprehensive coverage, so you can disable the query limit, or you can even you know, if you want to see more results in your output, you can set the limit more than 50 or less. Like, for example, let's say I want to limit it only to one result, so it will gonna limit it to one. So it can be done as well. So based on your requirement, you can do whatever you want. So yeah, or in the feed you can mention as much as the feeds you have, so depending on your requirements. So this is how the Exposor works in a nutshell. Simple tool, just simple queries, simple options. You don't need to know any query. You see, I don't need to know all the queries for the Shodan, but in verbose it shows me what the query looks like, what the Shodan will gonna process, what kind of query the Shodan will gonna process. So this is the query it will gonna process. But I just need to know CV and CP, that's it. I don't care about these queries. I don't, because each search engines will gonna have complex queries, and as an end user, you don't need to know about it. So the contributors or the people behind the skin will gonna add more and more queries here. So this is the Exposor. Yeah. In the future, I'm planning to implement more search engines. Right now I have 4 of them supported, and I want to include more filters, options for query search. And if you like the Exposor, please give a star in the repository and contribute, please, if you liked it. So yeah.